qui est la marque de fabrique de la mission laïque française. On l'a vu ce matin avec les élèves du lycée Malraux. On a vu l'aisance avec laquelle ils parvenaient à switcher d'une langue à une autre. Ça donne des complexes d'ailleurs. Et il est temps maintenant de traverser l'Atlantique et même au-delà pour aller au Texas, à la Dallas International School. Alors, c'est une école qui propose un bac en français renforcé et qui fait partie du réseau MLF, qui a fêté ses 30 ans l'an dernier. Pour en parler, s'il vous plaît, a very warm welcome to Tammy Hartnett. She's the president of the board of directors for Dallas International School. Elle a un CV tout à fait impressionnant. Elle a servi dans différents ministères américains. Vous êtes polyglotte, spécialiste des langues russes et slaves, et vous comptez bientôt rajouter une nouvelle corde à votre arc avec le français. The floor is yours.
Merci. Voilà. I first want to publicly congratulate Jean-Marc on his appointment as Director General of MLF. I wish for you a tenure filled with joy on the accomplishments yet to be realized, and want you to know that when challenges do arise, we will all do our part to see the mission through. I've had the pleasure to work under 4 MLF Director Generals in my 20 years having served on and off the Board of Directors with the Dallas International School. I know from experience there are no greater shoes to fill than Monsieur Debert, and I appreciated his advice to Jean-Marc to be your own best self, irreverent, optimistic, and above all human. An avid friend of the arts, I immediately knew the school's namesake here in Morocco, André Malraux. You may already know this, but André Malraux was one of the proponents who developed the Arts of Mankind, which is a colossal compilation of over 30 illustrated volumes cataloging the entire survey of art. A rather astute bibliophile, he had caught the attention of Jackie Kennedy when he was the French Minister of Culture. Stranger things have happened, and through a very interesting partnership, he then accompanied the Mona Lisa himself to the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. for a private viewing, as you can see in this picture. And as you know, the Mona Lisa was returned to the Louvre aboard the SS United States, but not without Jackie Kennedy's memorable statement about Monsieur Malraux. Monsieur was the most fascinating man I've ever known, and she said this all the while being married to John F. Kennedy. André Malraux was an interesting individual full of contradictions, a man of many passions, but above all, a man of action. He once said, often the difference between a successful person and a failure is not one has better abilities or ideas, but the courage that one has to bet on one's ideas, to take calculated risk and to act. Today I will share with you what it means to take calculated risks and to be a person of action, all based on building partnerships. I'll share with you my insights into creating a meaningful working relationship between the head of school and the board of directors, and specifically with the president of the board. I will walk you through our strategies over the last 9 months at the Dallas International School for moving past what I consider progress stagnation, slightly declining enrollment, and toward good governance for a healthy working environment where innovation can flourish. We'll take a realistic action approach to what is working, and we'll hopefully share some strategies that you might be able to use in your own schools. For those of you who don't know, let me give you a little bit of historical context. Dallas International School is celebrating their 30th year anniversary and has been known as the French School in Texas. We have a brilliant past and an increasingly very good reputation. But with that reputation also came shifting economies. We also had independent and public school competition, which were strengthening their IB programs, which were completely free to everyone in Texas. Our French companies ended up consolidating not in Dallas, but rather in Houston, and the demographics of our school actually changed. Our school today is only about 12 to 18% French, 20% international, and the majority share is held by Americans who are actually seeking an immersion international school who values French culture and exceptional curriculum. Texas, and especially Dallas, has recently become the second fastest growing metroplex in North America and Canada, second only to Toronto. The opportunity for us at the international school right now is to reestablish ourselves in the market as the only school with the French baccalaureate and the advanced bilingual IB servicing both French nationals and their internationally, globally minded Americans who see intellectual education as the great equalizer and a gift of opportunity. The challenge now for us is how will we market this advantage to the greater Dallas community and francophones alike? And it's very important because in the U.S., disposable income for education is based on a value-added proposition and a very high priority. So let me give you a little bit the scene of how this all came about in Dallas. COVID came to everyone. Our new leadership decided to return home, as did, there's some recent analysis that all of the independent schools of Southwestern Texas, 40% of them have actually had a shift in head of schools. So you will see that as time goes on. And the board was a little bit at an impasse, again, what I call progress stagnation. And we had 1 month to find a head, someone who could open the school simultaneously while rescuing 13 French teachers who were stranded all over the world because of immigration changes, COVID travel restrictions, the State Department fallout from the depletion of personnel, coupled with the Afghanistan military withdrawal. Meanwhile, the majority of the 8 board members decided to move on, and amidst all of this, I assumed the presidency in July 1, so about 9 months ago. I wasn't seeing failure at this time, but rather I saw a rare and unique opportunity to pivot from the past. And this is where the beauty of the MLF network of trained professionals comes into play, especially when the head of the North American network found a very competent, intellectual diplomat with a servant spirit that might want to serve our school as interim for 1 year based on the new direction that we're setting forth. Having interviewed him and all of his references, I knew his strengths and set out to build a board that could balance the partnership, the head of school with the new board of directors. This partnership I understood to be the single most important relationship in the entire school and must be based on trust and mutual respect. So how we approached building this partnership was in 3 stages. The first is building the board. With the few remaining board members, I redeveloped the board we have known for the past 30 years and spent a week researching high-functioning boards, the psychology behind teamwork and found a mentor who had done the same thing. The Houston lawyer spent hours and hours counseling me on best practices and the role of governance. Our bylaws actually allowed for a 21-person board, but we had rarely reached that capacity. I was counseled against doing a very large board because they were fearful that that could be difficult in building consensus. However, having been at the school for some time, I knew every area that we needed to make improvements on, and in some cases, I knew we needed to pivot to a completely different model. So I began looking for a team of 21 people that would complement our head of school who had talent. Expertise can be learned over time, but talent is something that I really needed at this point. And when you have talent coupled with expertise, it's a great partnership. The previous board, as were many boards around our country, were dominated by middle-aged Caucasian men. I didn't necessarily need a DEI consultant to tell me that I needed talent with faces that looked like our students, teachers, parents, and the community that we were serving. For the first time in our history, we have more women than men on the board, with a balance of no more than 3 industry sectors overwhelming the others. We included lawyers, entrepreneurs, university-level professors, former military, politicians, diplomats, and specialists in change management, and especially in corporate strategic planning. This team would provide our head of school the pool of talent to address our pivot. We communicated the new board to our constituency and began training the team on what a high-functioning board is and the importance of governance and the rules that actually prohibit members from stepping outside of their fiduciary duties and staying in their lane at all times. The next thing that we set out to do now that the board is built, and by the way, I asked 22 people to serve on the board after months and months of shuffling cards around, and all but one said yes, every single one of them. So then we moved into structuring the work and communicating the plan. Now that the board was assembled and trained, we began to structure the work. My mentor often told me, you can't eat an elephant in one bite, and that is Mark the lawyer from Houston, which I later found out he had appropriated that quote actually from Desmond Tutu, which seems more appropriate. I knew the opportunities at the school, and the head of school needed to do a full internal audit of our strengths and weaknesses while assisting his team to submit their department development plans. I tasked the board simultaneously while that was going on to work with a data-driven benchmarking, which included programming, our local competition, market evaluations, and various international schools around the U.S. and abroad. We actually used more of a task force model, moving away from the committee structure because committees tend to stagnate, but when you use a task force, you always have an outcome-based approach. The second phase of our pivot, which we are currently in right now, involves succession planning for both the board and the head of school, along with building an internal pipeline for leadership and growth. We're also working on a strategic plan, which will be a 5-year strategic plan. From the head of school's audit and our benchmarking, we began to choose what I call momentum innovation projects. At the international school, in the high school, because we have 2 campuses, we had never had athletic facilities, which is very difficult in the U.S. to be able to operate with all of the extracurriculars with no gymnasium and no field to play on. Money is tight, as it is everywhere. Building is expensive, so we sought a partnership that we could share resources. This public-private partnership started with a company called City Futsal. We started negotiating one field and one covered field, and have progressed to 5 fields, 2 gymnasiums, a wellness center for our teachers, and an outdoor learning space, all within the 9 months that the board has been initiated. This is merely a placeholding of what the facilities will entail. But as you can see, the large gray building over to the behind is actually our upper school campus, which is our high school. And Dallas International School, this is actually facing the University of Texas at Dallas, which is one of the leading research institutions in all of Texas. As you can see, you'll have 4 fields here. The covered space is 2 gymnasiums. And then as we approach around the side, and let me tell you how this public-private partnership came about. Dallas International School is not paying for this facility. We went into a public-private partnership. Our money was limited. We knew that. So we had to look at assets. What are our assets? Our best assets are our capital assets, which is land and buildings. The second asset are our people. So from this, we decided to engage with a local company that had done a very similar project like this in downtown Dallas. From that project, we went and visited. We had several conversations. They said, well, we would be willing to talk to you about that. I said, great. I have a giant piece of land in front of my high school, and I want to talk to you about what that looks like. So the initial conversation started with 1 field and 1 covered field, not an enclosed gym. All along, we knew that I needed a gymnasium for our children to play because we are currently busing children 30 miles away, sometimes to go play basketball. They're going 20 miles the other direction to play a regulation soccer field, and in some cases tennis, and then finding a gymnasium. All the while, we were spending approximately $50,000 a year renting other people's facilities. So in my head, I thought, well, why don't we flip that around, and we have a facility here that other people could share with us. So that's what we did. This is another bird's eye view of what it looks like. The thing that we agreed with that is very unique, if you're in a high school, you understand that your gymnasium is only used part-time, right? So in order to maximize the usage of the building, along with the ability to provide green space, we decided to do a shared partnership. Dallas International School, these will be our facilities from 6 a.m. in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. On top of that setup, we also have our scheduled nights that we will have our basketball tournament, our citizenship program. Everything will take place here. From 6 o'clock in the evening to 11 o'clock, where we hope our high school students are actually at home studying, they will come in and be able to use this facility. And this facility for them is based on City Futsal, which is the off-season soccer training that you use to promote your foot skills. And it's a very hot commodity right now in all of the soccer areas. And Dallas International School actually boasts 5 championship soccer teams, but yet we didn't have the facilities, so we were making do with that. As you can see, there's a small building in front of the 4 fields. The other thing that we wanted to do was to focus on our teachers and their mental health and their wellness. The facility that you see that is right in front of the very first court will be the Teachers Wellness Center. In that wellness center, the teachers will be able to use Peloton bikes, treadmills, and things that when they need a little bit of extra time, they can escape, or if they want to spend their lunch hour, or if they need a mental break, or maybe they want to do it after school. We want to make it as easy for our teachers as possible so that they have a place to go and that they feel comfortable. And we, on the board, want them to know that we're investing in their wellness as well. Here's a bird's eye view that you can see the space. So when we initially, in order to get the full gym, we're doing a ground lease, and this is how it's working. So the ground lease was a certain amount of years at the time. We only had one field and one covered field, right? So I increased the year of the ground lease and gave them, I said, what could you do with a little bit more land, right? Because once I put a field in and something else, that prohibits my land from being built, right? Because it's not a contiguous piece of property. So I went back to them knowing all along that we needed a covered gym, we needed a gymnasium, and so we gave them a little bit more land, we extended the lease, and this is what came up with that. So it's a bit of a partnership going back and forth, and we're working with them to finish. This project is not complete yet. Where you see the beige or tan area right there, we also created a 3,000 square foot indoor-outdoor learning center with two very large screens, very similar to what you see on stage here, that will allow teachers, when they need to get outside, that they can go out and sit and work with their students there. Part of the beauty of COVID, it taught us that we needed to be flexible and resilient. Unlike a typical gymnasium, two sides of each of the gyms will have raised doors that will raise up, and the gymnasium will then become an indoor-outdoor gymnasium, which allows for a lot of COVID precautions that we had that required you to be indoor-outdoor and not indoor at all. So this way we can pivot should there ever be another pandemic. The other thing that we did on the gymnasium, which is different than a typical gymnasium that you would see, we're using the gyms as a venue spot. So instead of having all of the facilities like the basketball court or the basketball goal or the bleachers, we're making everything completely mobile so that when we need to pivot in a flex space just like this, we can pivot to make it a stage for our drama department until we get a drama facility. It can pivot to having the entire school, around 1,000 people that can come in for any of our programming on our citizenship programs or our academics. So let me tell you about one other innovation project that I don't have up here. And by the way, my parents haven't seen this yet, so they will see this, but I'm waiting. So you're getting a sneak peek, if you will. Not everything is finished. It will tweak a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that our MLF partners know that there are a lot of opportunities out there like that. You just have to look in your community and see how you can partner with them. One other innovation project that we are working on, DIS has a very strong STEM program, including a drone program. That drone program is going to be mimicking a lot of the research that is going on at the University of Texas at Dallas. The University of Texas at Dallas received the contract from Amazon to start learning how to do packaging. We have 13 contiguous acres waiting to be built for the new school at some point. On that property that we have, we're actually looking at a public-private partnership that will build a drone helipad and be sponsored by hopefully one of our great partners, helicopter companies in Dallas. So we're looking at making that. So that's the other innovation project that we're doing. And just remember, things are expensive, but these two projects are not costing us a dime, other than because the way we negotiated everything is that they're in charge of maintenance, they're paying for everything. We're also looking for the solar panels for a donation, as well as green roofing. So the entire project that you're looking at will actually be off-grid. The last thing is, I will come back to you, hopefully in a year, and I will tell you that, yes, we did it, or no, these are our challenges. And lastly, when building a partnership, we always need to make sure that we measure our success and that we look at our failures and see how we can readapt. And I just want to leave it that the most important relationship, remember, is between your board chair and your head of school. And if it's not working, it's worth the cultivation, because when that happens, innovation projects like this come to fruition. So come to Dallas. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Est-ce qu'on m'entend? Oui? Alors, j'invite maintenant M. Franck Ponce, qui est le doyen de la faculté des sciences de l'administration de l'Université Laval au Québec, ainsi que notre directeur général de la MLF, Jean-Marc Mariot, pour la signature de la convention entre les deux établissements. Pardon.
Un, deux, non, ça marche pas. Décidément, je suis maudit avec les micros. Un, deux, ça y est, ça marche.
Ça fonctionne? Vous m'entendez? Oui, oui, non, non, oui. Bon, très bien. Juste quelques mots, en fait. D'abord, pour vous remercier. Très important pour nous, vous remercier à tous et à toutes, et remercier la direction de la MLF pour l'invitation. C'est vraiment très apprécié. Puis je vous remercie l'ensemble des personnes ici. Avec Caroline, on est là depuis 3 jours. Puis les rencontres qu'on a eues sont exceptionnelles. Vous avez un réseau qui est très fort. Vous avez un réseau qui partage beaucoup. Et ça nous a énormément impressionnés. On vous connaissait. On n'a pas eu la chance de se rencontrer avant parce qu'on sait tous que depuis 2 ans, les choses ont changé. Mais on est très heureux d'être là et on vous remercie énormément. Je voudrais aussi reprendre des mots du président hier qui a parlé de famille. C'est quelque chose qui, en tout cas personnellement, m'a vraiment marqué. Cet esprit familial est important et puis je pense que le programme de formation qu'on offre est vraiment basé sur cette prémisse de connaissance de l'autre, de partage, d'une véritable famille. Et la découverte depuis 2 ans et demi et travailler sur ce programme de formation, le développer, commencer à l'offrir, nous montre à quel point cette famille peut être forte. Et donc, on est très heureux de signer aujourd'hui, mais je pense qu'on est encore plus heureux d'entendre les commentaires qu'on a eus sur les participants à cette formation depuis 2 ans, qui au-delà d'une formation, je dirais, classique, on est dans une faculté de gestion, donc on a d'autres formations, mais cette formation, c'est un peu notre formation chouchou, une formation où c'est une expérience humaine qui prime, à la fois pour les gens qui ont participé, et pour nos formateurs aussi, ça c'est important que vous le sachiez. Les formateurs qui participent aux rencontres reviennent vers nous également pour exprimer la richesse, les différences culturelles, les différences de contexte, et à quel point ça leur apporte beaucoup aussi. Donc c'est l'occasion de vous remercier également pour ça, pour cet échange qu'on espère va durer pour plusieurs années, qui va évoluer. Mais à voir les sujets qui ont été abordés, il y a énormément de choses qui pourront être faites en partenariat. Puis on vous remercie encore une fois de nous avoir accueillis pendant ces 3 jours et à poursuivre ce partenariat et à poursuivre ces formations. On va voir quelque chose dans quelques minutes pour les gens qui finissent cette formation-là. Mais vraiment merci du partage encore une fois.
Dans les familles, il y a les cousins. Merci à nos cousins québécois de nous accompagner, bien évidemment, dans cette aventure de la formation et de la formation certifiante, parce que, bien évidemment, vous l'aurez compris, entre autres à travers la présentation hier de Julie Gouinet, ça constitue quand même un point d'ancrage pour la mission laïque française absolument essentiel. Je pense qu'on l'a tous compris, et s'appuyer sur des compétences, sur des savoir-faire, dans une approche aussi internationale. Voilà, ça nous renforce encore dans notre dimension à pouvoir partager, échanger et à faire que nous puissions être cette grande famille. Donc un grand merci à vous parce que voilà, c'est aussi à travers ces partenariats que la mission laïque française a sa capacité de pouvoir se dépasser et à pouvoir là aussi faire que nous puissions construire un avenir et on l'espère bien évidemment un avenir commun. Donc voilà, un grand merci.
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 Je vais ajouter un mot pendant la signature. Je vous ai remercié vous, mais je tiens à remercier aussi les équipes avec lesquelles on a travaillé. C'est des gens qui investissent énormément de temps. Julie était d'ailleurs à présenter justement la stratégie, puis j'ai été très impressionné par cette partie-là, mais toutes les participants, tous les gens qui sont dans ces équipes-là contribuent énormément au développement de ces formations-là, donc je les remercie aussi également. C'est important, à la fois chez vous et à la fois dans notre organisation.
Et donc, la séquence suivante, c'est qu'on va être amené à remettre des diplômes. Voilà, donc
Voilà,
on va avoir une...
Caroline Ouzio, qui est la responsable du centre d'apprentissage expérientiel de Laval, voilà, pour la remise des diplômes.
C'est un plaisir. Merci. Allez, hop.
Je te laisse un petit peu.
Moi aussi, j'aime parler au micro. Et au Québec, on dit qu'on tombe en amour. Ça fait 2 ans qu'on tombe en amour avec des participants MLF. Je vous aime, la gang. Comme on l'a mentionné, c'est vraiment une formation qui est branchée sur les individus et on crée des relations, on crée du sens en fait. Et le fait de pouvoir s'appliquer, à s'adapter à vos besoins, à ce que vous aimez, à ce que vous voulez faire, à l'impact que vous voulez avoir sur les jeunes, sur vos élèves, pour nous, c'est ultra riche. On est vraiment heureux d'être là, en fait, vraiment. Heureux d'avoir rencontré ceux qu'on connaissait déjà virtuellement, mais qu'on reconnaît maintenant physiquement. On s'est touchés. On aime ça, nous, au Québec. Et ici aussi, non, ça va?
Pas seulement au Québec.
Partout, hein. On aime ça, se toucher. Donc, oh mon Dieu Seigneur, on va garder ça dans les annales des... J'arrête de parler, il m'a dit arrête. Non, mais moi, il fallait que je prenne le micro.
Ah bah oui,
ça faisait partie du deal.
On a bien compris.
C'était un plaisir aussi de rencontrer d'autres personnes. Vous avez vraiment des équipes fabuleuses. L'équipe de Julie, sérieux, je ne peux pas toutes les nommer, là, mais Audrey, je t'aime. Et voilà. Donc, c'est fait, c'est dit. Au moins, je t'ai fait rire. On est parti. Vous êtes prêts?
Oui.
Eric, on va commencer par toi. Eric Thuot. Eric Poré. Es-tu là? Alix Martelly. J'attends en fait. David, je dis pas ton nom, tu te reconnais? David Marquez. Souraya Mamodali. David, il est là? Bouchra Lagzouli. Noël Jegou. Rodolphe Isambard. Dominique Collado. Mohamed Hamdoun. en reste encore. Christian Claverie. Bonne retraite, Christian. Marc Zemouche. Marc, il n'est pas là.
Bon, on le garde pour plus tard.
Christelle Turner. Sylvie Lionas. Cédric Toiron. Marilyn Racine. Où est Marilyn? Raghi Ramsès. Est-ce que Raghi Ramsès est là? Fabrice Quignon. Excusez. Alors, on prend. Muriel Pfeiffer. Marilyn est là. Elle voulait être discrète.
Ah, c'est là.
Yvon Adjibi.
Ah, Marc.
Yvon. Est-ce que Yvon est là? Marc Zemouche. Christophe Benmimoun Wisniewski. Je suis désolée. Il a dû partir? Xavier Ferrand. Jean-Louis Biry. Oui, alors c'est 2 cohortes, hein? Puisqu'on avait la pandémie en cours de route. C'est pour cette raison qu'ils sont nombreux. Mais c'est 30 maximum par année. Les inscriptions ont commencé. Yann Cordonnier. Mohamed El Bilouzi. Xavier Lavierville. Aurélie Loswarne. Catherine Bellus.
Pas sûr qu'elle soit là, Catherine. Je ne l'ai pas vue, elle n'est peut-être pas là. On lui remettra plus tard.
Michel Bure.
Bravo.
François Clausel. Alexandre Debar. Et pour finir, Sylvie Caro. Pour information, il y a 20 autres attestations en arrière, mais on savait que les gens n'étaient pas là. Donc, félicitations à tous et à toutes.
Un grand merci à vous et puis surtout pour votre engagement parce que voilà, suivre une formation aussi en continuant son activité et c'est toujours voilà, un challenge et je pense que c'est ce qui fait la richesse aussi de ce type de formation. Un grand merci à tous.
D'accord. Ouais, ouais.